Welcome back to another episode of Meredith with a Y. I am your host, Meredith Willits, and today I have Alex Mufson of Rev on the podcast, so stay with me. Hello, everyone. This is Meredith with a Y, and I am your host, Meredith Willits. Today we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. On today's episode, I have Alex Mufson on, human design expert, licensed therapist, and founder of Rev. She's redefining business as a path to healing, activism, and radical alignment. From scaling 7 figures to disrupting capitalism, Alex is here to show us how heart-led business can change the world. Are you sure about all of that?
I love that intro, and I love your intro. You're such a badass.
Thank you so much. I had my human design done. I think it's absolutely fascinating. I think everyone has to do it because
What are you?
So can you talk about that, please?
Do you know what you are before we
I
explain
think
it?
I'm a generator.
Okay.
I forget.
You'll have to, after this, you'll be excited. You go check it out.
I know, right?
Yeah, human
I
design
have it. I just forget.
That's all right. You can get it for no cost on my website, actually. I'm all about free access. So all you got to do is go revhumandesign.com and you can get like your free one with some really cool little insights. So no need to pay for that. I think everybody should have access. Human design is a compilation of a lot of different systems, some ancient, some less ancient, from I Ching to astrology to quantum physics and a lot of things in between. But it's a fairly new system in that it was only brought into this world in the 80s, so pretty new to us, highly relevant. It's one of those things that what I love about it as compared to a lot of other systems, because I'm a born skeptic. Like, I'm not over here easy to sell. Yeah, okay, you too. Good. So I'm a born skeptic, and honestly, this is actually so funny how I was introduced to it. Someone told me, like, do you know your human design? And I was like, no. And she's like, go on, just look it up. And I put mine in some random chart generator and I got back some information. I was like, this doesn't resonate. It's bullshit. But then for some reason in my mind, I was like, did I put my birth time incorrectly? And I hadn't switched AM to PM. And so I was like, whatever, it's the same day. It's going to be the same BS. Switched it though, just for good measure. And what came back to me was like, stopped me in my tracks. And I actually had one more really confrontational piece of that about a year after that, where it turned out my birth time from what I knew to my birth certificate was actually an hour off. I was born in Arizona, so they have like weird time zones.
Yes.
And again, it changed something very, very minor, but something that was kind of like nagging at me that wasn't right. And the new time changed it. And it was really, really powerful. So I kind of came into it with this skeptic's mindset, but I kept having these confirmation experiences, which for me, I feel like that's the only way that it could have been introduced to me that I would buy it. So then I started incorporating it for myself. Then at the time I was scaling a business that I had founded from zero. So I had quite a big team and I started utilizing it for that. And look, it takes a lot to scale a business, especially 0 to 7 figures in like under 3 years. Wow. But something that I know undeniably helped me do that and stay sane and healthy was absolutely human design. And, proof of concept, I have had other businesses way before I understood myself in the way that I do now, that didn't do that. I mean, they were fine. They fed me, but this was a real breakthrough for me. So then I started teaching it to my team members and other entrepreneurs, and primarily in the helping professions. And I use that really broad. Like, some of them are like traditional, what you think of as healers, but then I have people in the tech world that are super excited about, changing the world, which thank goodness for them, that are using it with me. And it snowballed, and Rev was born because a few of my colleagues that are incredible off the beaten path healers with plant medicine and working with existential dread and a really new approach to sobriety and ADHD jumped on board with me. And we're just seeing beautiful transformation for people with human design leading the way. And so I'm not going to knock it. And I think we are in a really dicey time right now. And anything we can get that reminds us to come back to ourselves
Yeah.
is a win.
Yeah. I think that I just last episode I just interviewed a gal, and it's basically the book that she wrote was, bottom up, kind of like, and learning from your people and actually caring about your
Yeah.
people. And the new generation, your generation Y and your millennials, they need to be connected, and
Mhm.
Generation X and the boomers, we are so detached. Like, we're just like, just do it. Just go because you're getting paid. Like,
Are you Gen X or Boomer? You look so young. Okay. I was like, what is she?
50,
She's
52.
You are
Um,
52? Okay, well, later I wanna know what you do for your
I
skin,
don't
but
drink. I quit
yeah, I
drinking.
don't drink either. That's great. That's great news.
Great news. But yeah, like, it's so different for Gen X and boomers to connect with these younger generations because they're about time off and I want to feel appreciated. And we're just like, just shut up and do the job. Like,
You
and
know,
so
what's
not
interesting is
working.
there's a framework for that in human design. So, okay, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I understand evidence-based work. I understand how to look at research. This is a little less peer reviewed and a little more prophecy, so you got to stay with me. But, the world may or may not be falling. So, we're going to take the
Up to
wisdom where we
them.
can get it. So,
Yep.
in human design, it's said that this chapter that we're in that sort of bred and built capitalism started in 1781. And there's a bunch of things that happened in 1781 according to the human design lens. But we're actually supposed to be about to enter a new chapter, which I think is fun because we never get to live through the prophecies, but we are about to live through a prophecy of 2027. And
Okay.
in that change, what's said to be happening now, this was predicted before all the nonsense that is 2025, that it said that all of the powers that have been existing structures, so the elite, the capitalist mindset, like the people, the 1%, right? They're
Right.
going to cling really tight to their
Yep.
power right now because it's starting to disintegrate.
Yep.
And what's said to be happening is that in 2027, we're switching to a mindset that really values the individual, that instead of it being all of the collective working for a very few elite at the top, we're starting to value individual experience, individual lives. And so what you're talking about totally resonates because I see that in my colleagues that are Gen X, in the boomer generation. You were really like in the thick of it with this sort of like capitalist, everyone's sort of serving the same top,
Yeah.
flow the resources to the top. And what I think we're seeing with younger generation, like Gen Z, and we'll have Gen Alpha coming behind them, who knows what they're going to be like. Um, I think we're seeing this like demand to focus on individual success and individual wellness and individual health. And I think we're already seeing that. And right now it feels crunchy because you've
Yeah.
got different generations, and you've got the elite fighting back, and all of the things we're watching if you are on the news or Reddit or whatever your
Yeah.
choice. But I think it will break way to something we have never seen before, and I find that really exciting.
Yeah. And I think anybody that can get on this bandwagon, if you will, of connection, communication, understanding that there's an actual living human being that is working for you, that has individual problems and stressors. And if you can connect with them, they are going to give, you know, and it's so wild to me because in America, we are so driven by sports and we understand the concept of coach and athlete. Like, if you've got a great coach, that athlete is going to play on a broken leg. They're going to run through walls for you. They're going to do everything and anything for that coach. But then all of a sudden, we switch over to the workplace and we do not utilize any of that intelligence that we've learned from sports, which is, the coach is out there at 6 o'clock in the morning with you. The coach is eating at McDonald's or whatever with you. Like loyalty and working hard and showing up and doing a good job is bred from and derived from connection and bonding and commit, and this connectivity. But then we get in the workplace and we just go, too bad, do it.
I think the therapist in me is like cheering. so hard because I mean that's for real. And what I like about human design is it's kind of like everybody gets their chart, right? And we can learn how to interpret those charts and see how to work together better. And I think that's really when I was scaling very aggressively, it was understanding who on the team, if we go back to your athlete metaphor, who on the team was skilled for each position, and then really leaning into that rather than expecting me to be built for what someone else is built for. And that's what good coaches do, right? They see where the talent is. They see where someone, if, at their best is going to be better at one thing than someone else at their best, but they might have different strengths. And for me, human design is just it's like a hack. It goes faster because I always say, like me as a therapist, you've got you got 6 months of rapport building to get people to really reveal themselves to you. Human design, you get to see it in their chart right away. So you get to skip a lot of that steps and keep it
Yeah.
really non-judgmental and really just about practice. And that's why I prefer using human design in practice. It's actually a tool for our lives, not just like some woo-woo quiz that you take.
Yeah, and like it's such an amazing tool, and anyone that has their chart done for them, like they're blown away. They're like, "Holy crap, this like thing just went
Yeah.
inside of me and figured me out," right? And we've got this amazing tool, and I know a lot of companies are moving towards personality testing and like that whole thing. Like we want to get a personality test for hiring and if you're a good fit with the company and whatever else. Why aren't people on board? Or is it just there's certain companies that don't get it? They don't want to hire? Like to me,
I
I'm
think
like,
people are
this is a
moving
no-brainer.
into Yeah, I think people are moving into using it in the same way. Like historically, we started out seeing like lots of Myers-Briggs, then the
Hmm.
like really edgy companies with like the Enneagram. The thing about those is those are self-report. So you report the answers to the questions, and
Yeah.
then it synthesizes with its little algorithm and it spits out the results. So you can BS that
Yeah.
because if you don't answer accurately for whatever reason, maybe it's intentional or maybe you just don't have an accurate lens of yourself, your results are not going to be true. Not because you have tried to make them untrue, but just because all those tests can do is reflect what you've given it. Human design, and again, a little less peer reviewed, a little more prophecy, but human design is a birth chart.
Yeah.
So your birth information, for those who know it, which most people know it, there are some people that we have to work with some question marks in their life for various reasons, but for those who know their birth information, it's fixed. And so human design is seen as like a birth chart that's not even like astrology, which moves, right? Like we were just came out of eclipse season and retrograde season
Yeah.
with astrology. That's what's happening outside of our bodies. Human design is an imprint at the moment of our birth. And then the 3 months before our birth, it's said to be the design date. So those are fixed. It doesn't actually matter what Mercury is doing on any given Wednesday because it's what is inside you. You can use it in relationship to what's happening
Yeah.
external to you, whether it's someone else's chart or the universe's astrology or however you want to engage it. But it is fixed and it's not something that you can self report incorrectly unless you give it the wrong birth information.
Which is so fascinating. So if you don't know, like I'm an intuitive life coach, psychic medium channel, all the good stuff, right? And I do not get a lot of male clients because they don't want me seeing them because they're
Okay.
afraid I can actually see them, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing is people might not use this, especially in the patriarchy or a
Mm.
masculine bubble, because it's like, it's almost feels a little bit like I am helpless to the design chart. Like,
Mm.
oh, like you're going to be able to see me. I'm not going to be able to mask. I'm not going to be able to
Mhm.
say, well, I was just in a bad mood that day, or I can work my way out of being a generator and I could be a manifesting generator. Like, do you see what I'm saying? It almost makes me
Yeah.
feel boxed in if I'm
Mm.
afraid of who I am. Like,
I
oh,
get that. I think what I
yeah,
have I haven't actually encountered that a lot. I've encountered more, the skeptics who are like, it's a birth chart. And I always kind of speak to that, just like I've said here, like, look, I have a clinical license. Like, I can do this work on a much longer arc, or we can do it today. And To
That's what I
me,
say to my
I
clients
yeah,
too.
I don't have time to do 6 months, a year of traditional therapy work if I have a tool that can
Yep.
get me there faster. So then I just explain if someone does feel concerned, all we're looking at are actionable tools and information. So it's not that there's no judgment attached to what is part it, like I have blue eyes, period. Like that's
Right.
just that's what it is. So there's no like good or bad attached to that. That is just the color of the pigmentation in the irises in my eye. So I try to just say like, look, we can just look at it and we can just say what are some actionable tools. Typically, if I start with strategy and authority, which for those that don't know, strategy is how something, an opportunity, an idea, something like that comes into your world for it to be on the table for you to maybe consider it's for you. And then the authority that you have is sort of like the lens you run the things that come into your world in alignment with your strategy through, almost like a lens or a litmus test, your authority to then decide if it's for you. So if it doesn't come into your world in alignment with your strategy, you don't even have to consider it. But if it does, then you run it through your authority. And
I
so,
think too, like people think that maybe what if it says I'm not a good leader and I'm in management? You know, like I think
mm,
people fear what if this thing tells you that
hmm.
I'm not enough?
So human
Or
design would never say like you
right.
are or
They
aren't a
would
good
just
leader.
say, go this way. Like do it that
Well,
way.
it would say more like this is how you can be an inspired support and lead in leadership.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've had people at my companies that I've chosen in all sorts of designs, in all sorts of positions. And there are I just wouldn't expect a generator to lead the way a projector leads, to lead the way a manifestor leads. That would be unreasonable.
Right.
I would suggest that they lead in alignment with their design, but then make sure that they're still optimizing their leadership potential. So, what you do with this information is neutral. Like you can do anything with this information.
Right.
How you decide what you do, strategy and authority. You
Yep.
have this tool. If something doesn't align with your strategy and authority and you want to do it, my guess is when you have blown through what your gut or your intuition or whatever your inner wisdom is, which is what we would call authority, my guess is we all know what that feels like and what ends up happening. If you do something that like you're like, I have this nagging feeling, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to do it. And in human design, we call that like ignoring your strategy and authority is taking you out of something called passenger consciousness. So passenger consciousness is like your brain's great. It's great for logistics. It's great for making things happen. It's great for making like actionable movement. Decisions and what's for you should come from your body. And I
Yeah.
think most of us who have considered this, especially you with your profession, know that there is an inner wisdom that most of us have. Some of us that looks different for each of us. Not everybody has the same strategy and authority. But when we're making decisions from a place of like logistics, we can often get ourselves in really big trouble. Doesn't mean we don't use those beautiful high level logistical brains. It's just that we use them to support the decisions that our bodies know are right for us.
Yeah. Trusting your gut. I mean, everyone says trust your gut. I don't care what line of business and what CEO or FEO or owner O or whatever the heck, everyone's like, go with your gut. Go with your gut on, the LSAT, go with your gut on your, all the things. But
Yeah.
then when it comes to real life, like I always tell my clients, this one time I was at CVS and I just kept hearing, get ginger ale. I'm like, that's so stupid. We don't even drink pop. Get ginger ale. I get home and my kid's like, my stomach's a little queasy. Do you have any ginger ale? I swear, I'm like, or
That's
it's like
amazing.
buy milk. And it's like, I just bought milk, buy milk. You go home and it's like the milk was
The milk is
spoiled. Like
spoiled.
that gut, that whisper, that nudge is so powerful. It's the all knowing, and I
So
think that,
that's the authority. And so the
mhm,
one thing I would tease out there is that for some people, their gut is immediate. For other people, it is not. So, an example is there's sacral authority and there's emotional authority. Those can both be generators. So, you might be one of them. Um, Sacral authority is like you have this immediate response, and it's like what we typically think of as gut, like you don't have to think about it, you just know. Emotional authority, that's more of like you might have an initial response if you're a generator, but you need to take some time and like sleep on it and let yourself kind of like ride the wave of yes, no, maybe, I don't know. And so that's a beautiful example of the gut is there for both people, but
Yeah.
one person has to learn that their initial impulse is the one that they should follow. The other person, because they know their authority is an emotional authority, needs to learn that their gut needs a minute to sleep on it and ride the wave and see where you land. That's
Yeah.
what I find so rich with human design is that's still your gut. It's just
Right.
we all have different operating systems, and there's more than just those two authorities. Just in case someone looks up their chart and is like, "I'm neither of those." Those are just the two that are closest to generators, which is what you are.
So you take all of this, right? So the people out there listening or watching, they're like, okay, Meredith, this is the second darn podcast you've done on human design in the past couple of years. Yeah, I did
Oh, it
another
is.
one
That's
with
great.
another. Mhm. And and that's great and all. So I own a business or I'm a manager. You've got me my
Mhm.
interest peaked. How do you or what does Rev do or what are you using all of this for to scale and use and do what are you doing with it?
Yeah. So first, the free stuff, because I really think that this needs to be in everybody's hands, regardless of financial ability. First thing is you go to the Rev website, and for no cost, you get your chart. So revhumandesign.com, super easy. From there, your chart is going to show you your strategy and your authority. And I have little blurbs for no cost in there. That could honestly inspire so much work. So I would love to support anyone who wants support, but I just want to put out there that there's so much you can do through self education that's really exciting and really, really powerful. So, number one, do that. So, typically, if someone wants to work with me in a mentorship position or business strategy, we'll start with a 3-day intensive and we'll go deep into your chart while also doing some very intentional written reflection. And we'll set whatever it is that becomes forefront for like, this is the thing that is blocking or not allowing for the growth or whatever you name as what you want. For some people, I've had people come for this with intention with their business, and it is, in fact, a business thing. Like it's like how their team is set up, or it's their offer, or whatever kind of business they're in. For others, we uncover some sort of deep work. I've actually found like repressed childhood abuse. I've found all sorts of things
Yeah.
that sometimes the person that has coming doesn't even remember, but we find it through asking questions of their body through that chart. Then it's a matter of really targeting what will support. So many people continue into a 3-month intensive that's either with me, if human design is the right uh, way to move forward. The reason I have others on my team is if we uncover, say, childhood trauma, you may need to stop and really do some existential work to deal with that. And I have specialists on my team that does that. Maybe you need to take a moment and go do a plant medicine ceremony. And I have a specialist that does that. So a lot of people stay in the human design realm. Some people will leave, do their biohacking work, do whatever their work is, and then come back for more human design work once they feel stabilized. I believe that multiple modalities is the smart way to work. And I think a lot of specialists try to just hype their own. I think design is amazing, but I think sometimes you need all these other specialties. So that's how you come to work with Rev. You do a 3-day intensive, and then we let you and your body and your chart guide us.
Yeah. I think with the Gen X, the boomers, we were taught therapy, right? We were
Mm.
taught it's in your head,
Hmm.
change your thinking, think positive, um, read a book, whatever. And what we're learning in the past, God, 5 years even, right, is that all this trauma is actually stored in the body. And you can talk your way, think your way, shrink your way, all the things out of trauma, abuse, whatever it is. but it is in your physical body. And we're learning through like tapping and EMDR and, the biohacking and the plant medicine. I mean, look what they're doing in in psychology is they're going, wait a minute, is it benzodiazepine? Is it, an antidepressant? Are these where it's at? Or should we be doing microdosing mushrooms? Or should we be doing ketamine or all of these other psychedelics to get you out of your ego, out of the body, to be able to see the other side, to be able to see self? And I think that it's fascinating how much we've learned in the past decade that is actually accessible to the public, that says you're not just a bad thinker, or you're not just holding on to stuff in your brain, that you should just let it go. She's your mom. He's your dad. Like, let it go. It's in the past. It's like, I know so many people that are clients that they would do anything to let it go. And the people, one thing I say, and a lot of times in my sessions, is the way you do one thing, and this is you, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And with Rev, what you're doing is you're saying, let's look at the way you do everything. Go back to how you started doing the one thing, and then we'll change how you do everything, right? Because people don't even
Absolutely.
realize that they're in their own way. They think, and I didn't learn this until the past couple years. I just thought I was me. I just thought that this is who I was. There's no getting out of being me. I can't change my people pleasing. I'm just a nice person, and all the other shit. And I didn't realize, no, this is who you've become, which
That's
is,
so powerful. Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we work as a team. That's why I've had people come dead set that they're working with me on human design and business strategy, and they're going to scale their business. And we do that 3-day intensive. And I say, we don't want to build on this foundation. I need you to go work with, our biohacking specialist and really, really get a hold of your body, your hormones, your adrenals, all of this first. Because if we scale a business, even if we do it through beautiful human design work, your system is not ready to hold that much yet. And
yeah,
so we don't want to build more than your body can hold. And so that's why the team approach feels very important to me. Some people do just work with me on human design,
yeah,
like you're talking about people who've worked with you and they have great foundations. But sometimes really the answer is maybe they do need to go do a plant medicine ceremony or ketamine, which is a very Western version, but we have huge success stories with that. And
yeah,
I've had people come and their business thrives not because of new strategy work, but because of their deep, deep trauma work. And we're just starting to truly embrace that we are whole humans. And with that radical humanity, we get to redefine what success is. And I have had successful businesses built on the back of my body while it was sick. And I will tell you that success doesn't feel great when it's built on top of something like that. And we deserve to have opportunities that feel aligned and safe for us.
yeah. As you're talking, it's just like, it's it's so like the way we allow things into our life, the way we push back on success, the way we push back on love. We don't even realize we're doing it. The way we continue to attract the wrong partner, the way we attract, because like maybe we don't have great female friendships, right? And we're like, but we're very successful in business. Well, our business happens to be primarily with men, and we're scaling at $200,000 a year. But if we could get our shit straight with women, we are now scaling at $1 million a year. But we have to break through that wall from interacting well with men to our mother issues. And, so
Yeah.
often, tell me I'm wrong, so often people don't just think, well, I just don't get along with my mom. Like, I just like, I've forgiven her. I've moved on. It is what it is. And it's like, but you don't realize that affects your trust issues with women. That affects the way that you parent your daughter. That affects the way that you think about yourself as a female. Like, this stuff runs deep. And so this is going to affect relationships. This is going to affect friendships. This is going to affect the way you do business. And if you can just put your guard down, because I think that first of all, the people out there that think that this is woo woo, fine, go do a chart. She's
Yeah.
giving it to you for free.
Yeah.
Go do it. Put your deets in there. Go do it, because you're going to be like, this is witchcraft, but it's not. But like honestly, like if you are on the fence, go to her page, pull it up, see what it says, and then go from there, because I get it. And I was I was at an Airbnb, and I think you'll find this fascinating. I was at an Airbnb, and my husband was outside fishing, and I was just like thinking about astrology. Don't ask me. It must have been like a retrograde of some nightmare. And the information, like the channeled message that I got, was the planets are you, and when you're born, it's like, this is how we're going to create you based on the time and the place and where the planets are. But the planets are just an extension of you. Like trees are an extension of you, and animals and all the humans on the planet are an extension of you. And those planets, like the moon represents X and the Jupiter represents Y. And so it's almost a like a computer program,
Mm.
and that computer program, based on the time and the when and the how and the who and where you're at on the planet, all of that, it's like putting in all of the latitude and longitude lines of who Meredith is going to be based on who I wanted to be when I was born and came into this planet. And it was like, okay, now go. And so it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I don't know who designed the human design, but it is literally fascinating. But when I heard the message of like, that is how
Mhm.
astrology works, is like the moon is this representation of a part of my existence, a part of my person.
Mhm.
And that's why when like Mercury goes in retrograde, it like blows up that part of your
Hmm.
person, right? And so like with human design, like if you think that this is just nothing, I promise you, once you get your chart, you're going to be like, husband, wife, you have to do your chart so
It
I know
is
how to
fun to
interact
do
with
it
you.
all.
Right. And like kind of like what you did, where you did yours, and then all of a sudden you're a buyer and you're like, okay, I want everyone to do this because we can actually work
Mhm.
together. Imagine having that type of key to unlock your business, your
Yeah.
family, your relationship. And it's free, PS. And you're just here to expand and expound on what's coming out.
Yeah, there's so much that you said that I was like, yes, 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 yes.
Sorry.
But the one thing to go back to as far as your relationships and your business, I am a great example of that. In my 20s, I had a business which was successful. I also had a relationship which, though I'm not in it anymore, ended up being a 12-year relationship and there was a marriage involved. So on the outside, everything looked very successful. And I got incredibly sick, like eh, strange brain hemorrhages kind of
Oh my
sick. Like,
God.
yeah, I'm not talking like I got a cold. And now that I have human design, I look back at that time in my life. Now I'm 37, so it was a ways. Um, Nothing was aligned with my strategy and authority in human design. I was still on the surface seeming successful. And so if you looked at me, and at the time, I was actually a professional horse trainer at the time. I was very fit. I had that look that everybody wants to have. I had, the cool dog, the handsome husband, like the whole thing was happening. But I was getting literally sicker and sicker and sicker because I was not listening to my authority. And I was, in that regard, I was like overworking myself, putting myself in unsafe scenarios without even knowing it. Because from like the capitalism, this is what you're supposed to do in your 20s, everything looked great. Fast forward into my 30s when I scaled that business that we discussed. I sold that business, but when I scaled that, it looked completely different. So it was not built on the back. I'm a projector in human design. So projectors, if you look up your chart and you're a projector, I'm one of you. It was not built on my generating energy because I'm not a generator. I had built everything in my life in my 20s based on as if I was a generator. Now I would look back. My relationship was based on if I had a very different strategy and authority. When I did it again this was in my early 30s when I scaled that next business, I mean, 0 to 7 figures in under 3 years is no joke,
Yeah.
and I did that, like, from my couch. And that is a and I made a lot of jobs during COVID, during that economic hardship, like, I believe fully that it is because I was operating through my human design, my strategy and authority. I got divorced. I got a great partner who engages with me in a totally different way. And frankly, in the mindset I was in my 20s, I would have never accepted the love that he has to provide
Yeah.
because I was not in a place that was in alignment with how I best get into relationship and receive care and love. So I was looking for something totally different. And so I feel like I'm the perfect case study of like I've actually built both relationship and business in 2 different ways in my life with radically different results.
It's so funny. I just sent my son this meme text, whatever, this morning. And it says, finding your people makes you realize there was nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, yeah,
And I mean, if I could scream that from the top of like Mount Everest to every
yeah.
single person, because and it was funny because I was just on a call with a client, and it's like we squeeze ourselves into such a pretzel with all the things, be it a body, a physical body,
Yeah.
starving ourselves or not taking care of ourselves or not listening to our illnesses, or into relationships or jobs that look good. Like how many people, and I am here to tell you, because I am surrounded by very successful, wealthy people where I live, and you can just sit here like this waiting for one after another of the men in this town having a nervous breakdown, quitting their jobs, ending up playing video
Where do
games
you
in the
live?
basements. Oh yeah, at
Where do you
40
live?
some. Yeah, where I live.
Where? Where is
Oh, I'm
like
sorry, in Illinois, outside of Chicago.
I grew up outside of Chicago. I
Oh
ran away
really?
at 18, but
Yeah, but it's just like, if you are not in alignment,
yeah.
here comes divorce,
Yep.
here comes illness, here
Yep.
comes the midlife crisis,
Yep.
or quitting your job to go become
Yep.
a coach or whatever the hell it is. The thing of it is
Yeah.
that when you're out of alignment, you can only do that for a
Yeah.
short period of
Yeah.
time. It's not long lived. It
Yep.
will
Yep.
not last.
No.
And this is when we see the men with the heart attacks.
Mhm.
This is when we see women just like leaving their family and never coming back
Mm,
because of the fact that they are living out of alignment. And
mm,
maybe they could have stayed with their family if they would have just changed a few things and been more
mm,
authentic. But so many kids, I mean, you see it in middle school and high school. I've got a
mm,
middle school and high schooler, and you see it. They all want to blend. They all want to be like
mm,
everybody else and fly under the radar and be in bad friendships that do not serve their greatest and highest good. And then there's women, and men. We do these things that society says, good job. Keep, and I mean, I just talked to someone last week. It's like my parents want me to get married and have kids, and I have zero desire. And it's just like that pressure, that pressure and it's out of alignment. And why would you want your child to do anything that they're going to wake up in 10, 20, 30 years either sick or divorced or having a nervous breakdown somewhere? And we see it constantly. But if you do figure out who you are as a person and honor that to the depths of your soul, you are going to be so successful. So successful. And it has nothing to do with society and it has nothing to do with your parents. It's about coming to this planet and showing up
being really unapologetic about who
unapologetic.
you are, and I think, that's another thing that I have really personally benefited from with human design, and I witness it in a lot of my clients too, but for me personally, it gives me this beautiful framework to just say yes or no, because I can say, like, I know that when I follow this framework, life is easier. And so when I start to feel the pressures, which I absolutely feel, I don't think that there's anybody who doesn't in one way or another. The progress is how easily I say no. It's just
Yeah.
not an option. Like sometimes opportunities even come that seem like a great idea, but my strategy and authority say this is not for you. And it's gotten so easy for me to just not even think about it. Like it's just, it's not in alignment with my strategy and authority. It's just not on the table. And I think there's so many hours of our lives spent either agonizing over if something is for us or in something that was never for us that we kind of knew. And I hear that over and over and over, like, I kind of knew this wasn't a good idea and I did it anyway
Yep.
because. And so
Yep.
just providing a framework, and I love how black and white it is because that's just, again, we don't have time. We don't have
Yep.
time on this earth to be deliberating endlessly. Like, I want to know that I'm considering this in a framework that works, it's replicable, and it serves me. And the more I do that, and the more I know what like my partner's chart is and know how he works, it allows me to not overfunction, to not, do all those things that we as women were conditioned to do, because he's got his own way of engaging with this world. And so I get to just step back and support him to do that rather than step in and
Yeah.
make stuff happen. And that can be applied to business, to friendships, all over the place. But I do think if you're talking about women, a lot of the time partnerships and overfunctioning is a real hot spot.
Yeah. And it's so weird how many people don't even know when they're getting imbalanced.
Yeah.
And that's one thing is like it takes you to becoming balanced and having that kind of ground zero to realize when you are becoming like
Mm-hmm.
overly anxious or working too hard or like burning the candle at both ends or like sluggish. Like balance is so outside of the normal like Americans stratosphere. Like they don't even know when they're imbalanced because they're always imbalanced. Like if I get imbalanced, I know it within a nanosecond. Like I am like don't feel good. Wait, mayday, mayday. And so I think that like with your human design situation, it creates a framework and a life path, if you will, to learn that about yourself. And then you go, I can cut out decades of bullshit. Like I
And
don't
sometimes
need to.
sometimes we've made such a mess for ourselves, which me included, that it
Yeah.
does take like that's why we have the biohacking on the team. That's why we work in functional medicine. That's because if you have been way out of your
Yeah.
world and your alignment for a long time, you will have adrenal issues. You will have hormone issues. You will have microbiome issues. That it's almost 100%. And sometimes we can adjust that just with lifestyle, but sometimes there does need to be active support and health rebuilding in the process. So again, I want to be really clear because a lot of people are out there with all their magic wands. There is no magic wand. If you have been out of alignment with your strategy and authority and your design for a long time, my guess is you need some gut health work. My guess is you need some adrenal health work. My guess is you need some hormone rebalancing. We have to look at your diet because like you said, we want to get you back in alignment, but sometimes we've really messed things up in the
Yeah.
process for our body. So, it's not just like woo woo, just listen to your body. Like if your body's been messed up for 20 years, you don't want to listen to your body right now because it's throwing you all sorts of crazy signals from being
Yeah.
ignored for so long. We want to get us back to a centered, healthy place. And then we want to learn skills, which I think human design is the fastest way to learn this,
Yeah.
to not get so out of alignment again in the future.
I love that. And I
Mm.
love the idea of like, I don't know, just like a more connected, compassionate business model and building these businesses that aren't just you do, I say, we go, this is the way it is and forget it. Who cares about the people? Like I mean the fact that these are back to back podcasts of women, and the other gal, she's a Harvard professor and
Mm.
wrote this book based on, basically bottom up and connection and like really
Mm.
connecting with humans. And this is the exact same conversation,
Yeah.
just in a different way,
Yeah.
is y'all need to be listening because I didn't put these podcasts back to back. This was haphazard. This is when it worked out for us, but y'all need to be listening. And if you are an employee, because that's what I said to her too, if you are an employee, maybe you guys get together. If your bosses aren't into this, that doesn't mean that you can't. That doesn't mean, and if you are a boss and you're listening to me, to this conversation, like check it out for yourself. Like, even if you think like, oh, that's hocus pocus, try it. Try it. See what happens. See how much your
Yeah.
life changes, because I know, like you said, I'm a huge skeptic. Like literally the universe was like, you will talk to dead people because if you don't, you will not know it's real, which is totally I have to dive into the stove, right? I'm that person skeptical. And I think it's so funny that you had to go through like a 35-point process to get to your reading before you actually like got the right one. Like that's so me. It's unbelievable. But I think that, if you don't, if this seems weird, just try it. Try it. Prove us wrong. Like that is how legit it is. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and I do wanna invite there's a lot of helping professionals out there that are burning themselves out in whatever way, whether it's talking to dead people or being a therapist or a doctor, or you're building some app that is meant to support healers doing their work better. I think there's a lot of pressure to burn ourselves out. I have a mastermind coming up that's called Human Design in Practice that's reimagining healing work, and I think that's really what we all need to do right now. What you just said of step back and say, "What am I supposed to be doing and how can I contribute to this world?" And when I say reimagining healing work, I think we need to take it down to the studs. And that doesn't mean we forget our clinical background, our medical background, our naturopathic background, whatever it is, our background as a breath worker. It just means that we need to evaluate what systems we learned all this in and
Yeah.
what we're censoring in ourselves and get back to some basics around ourselves. And that's why I'm super passionate about bringing helping professionals together so we can learn from each other and letting human design lead the way because it just gets us there but faster. And in case you haven't noticed, I'm all about like, let's change your life and start enjoying it
Yeah.
well before you're dead.
Yeah. And I mean, and if you're Gen X and you're listening to this and even maybe a little bit younger, we were not trained to enjoy life.
No,
We
no,
were
Gen
not
X
trained.
is a really it's a tough background that you've been given. Yes.
Yeah, it's was do it because I said so,
Mhm,
seen and not heard. Like it's all the things
mhm.
of you were meant to suffer. Like I was, it's wild the amount of like the just do it mentality,
Yeah,
regardless of happiness or joy. Like just you do it. You do it. You
yep.
show up. You don't quit. You work 10 hours a day. You do what it takes. Like suffer, suffer, suffer. Like if you sit down on the couch, it's because you're lazy. Like all of that programming runs deep, and so we have a lot of work to do, and
Yeah.
not doing the work is what is getting our kids to go no contact with our
Mm,
generation. It's there's ramifications to the way we were
mm,
raised and the way that we're raising our kids. So this kind of work, if you are in a position where you're fighting
yeah.
with your adult children, if you're having if life is not going the way you want it to, go to Rev. What's the website again?
It's Rev like REV revolution, revhumandesign.com.
And check out Alex here. And then what is the mastermind that you have coming up and where and when
Oh
and
yeah.
how?
That's called, Human Design in Practice, and it's reimagining healing work, and so that's for anyone that identifies as a helper, so someone who already has a client-facing or
Mhm.
patient-facing career, and that, you know, my human design is splenic authority, and it's all about getting intuitive hits, and I would love for it to start in June, but I'm gonna wait until the group feels done.
Okay.
So right now I've opened it up for 10 spots, but we'll see if I feel like that's the right number. But you just go on the website, it's under human design, you'll see it there. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming up. We have a couple of my colleagues at Rev have a great podcast called Death and All the Rest, which sounds right up your alley because you mentioned talking to dead people, Death and All the Rest. I'm launching a new podcast soon called Rest for the Revolution, and I would just love to hear all of your feedback on both of those podcasts. Death, I'm just a fan of Death and All the Rest, but
Same.
Rest for the Revolution will be me hosting and doing stuff like this. So I hope that people will stop by. For all the announcements, you can just follow me on socials, or my personal favorite place that I share is I have a, again, totally free email newsletter that is me writing about the things that I'm struggling with, the things that I'm thinking about, what's coming into my world. To me, that's the best place to get the longest form content. But you can find me on socials too.
I love that. Newsletters are the best.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun to just write to write.
Go. That's how I
Yeah.
started my entire everything. I got married and I
Yep.
started a blog, and it just launched my entire life after, because I
Oh my
just like getting it
gosh.
out. It's like blogging, 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 blogging,
I
blogging. I would just
love
write and
it.
write. Yep.
I
It's
know, I
very
was, like,
therapeutic
craving the, like, early 2000s when you were on an email list and you were excited to get
to get
the
it.
blast instead of, like, now we're like, delete, delete, delete. So
I
I, like,
know.
was really intentional about shifting it over and making sure that, it was curated to the people who really wanted to
I
read this
love
stuff,
that.
and I'm like, "I want this to be an email that you actually respond to." Like, hit reply, it's my email address,
Oh,
emails for writing.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that so
So
much.
please reply. If you sign up, please reply, let's talk.
Well, thank you so very much for coming on and talking about Rev and human design and all the
Thank you
things
for
that you're
having me.
into. This has been a fantastic, right up my alley conversation. And I think one that's very important for everyone moving forward in business and in life, and all the people that are just like
Yeah.
undoing and redoing and all the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I'm going to play us out with some music. Don't hang
Yeah.
up so that everything gets uploaded to Podcast World. But thank you guys so much for listening. And
Thank
I will
you.
be here next week with a whole new guest. So show back up next week. Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredithwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredith with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredith with a Y. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.